honk, honk. Okay, so we've had 2 episodes explaining all the controls and what all the UI means, but that begs the question, how do you actually play this game? Well, that's where it gets tricky, because Space Station 13 is a sandbox that gives you a goal and just leaves the shovel and pail out to see what you do with it. So trying to tell someone how they should build their sandcastle, play their round, seems a bit shitty, as they're not actually going to learn anything about the game. So let me try and keep it simple. Your main goal throughout all the rounds is to survive, to get on that blue and white colored shuttle and go home. Or if you're really lucky, survive the antagonists, because, they're dead or something. Think of this as if this were a survival horror, both before and while the horror is going down. So you'll be scavenging for tools, medkits, and other such junk before the antags actually start destroying anything. Now, I've been throwing around the word antagonist a whole bunch without really explaining it. Antagonists are just that, antagonists. They're the cause for a lot of stories you hear about Space Station 13, like security teams trying to keep control of revolutions, or how the person the doctor trusted was actually the bad guy, and they killed them before the escape shuttle arrived. The thing is, though, you'll never know if they're in a round or not until they reveal themselves or you're being strangled by them. But just because someone is an antagonist doesn't mean they'll just go around killing everyone willy-nilly. They have their own goals, but it doesn't mean they'll do them. There's no rule in this game that states that you have to do the goals the game gives you. So if you see a space wizard wandering around the station, giving everyone free guns and offering to set up D&D sessions, it's probably a really good idea to ice that motherfucker. But besides all that shit, you know what else you need to survive? Boredom. Something that a lot of people don't like talking about, and this applies to all servers by the way, is the fact that you're going to get rounds where absolutely nothing happens, or God forbid, the game mode is set to extended, in which case paranoia or just plain boredom will destroy the station because there are no antags to set things into motion. Why does extended exist? So, how do you survive it? Other stations like Paradise, TG, and Bay give you things to work towards, like the R&D system, arcade games, or just good old-fashioned role-playing.
He's trains! The Red Dragon of Sidonia is here!
There's more to it than that, but this isn't a every other Space Station 13 server tutorial now, is it? Goonstation, on the other hand, has a lot of shit to do. And I mean a lot. And almost all of it is either pointless or nets you cash. Let's start with something that I brought up in the last episode, and that's the stock market. A feature so rarely used that I actually forgot to get footage for it. To play the stock market, you gotta obtain cocaine. Not in the game, but in real life. Snoring it will allow you to both be buzzed and motivated enough to stare at fake stocks on the screen and figure out what needs to be bought and sold. In order to play the stock market effectively, you need to read the news about the company you're investing in, make sure to buy low and sell high, and eventually cause the Great Depression to happen, but it's in space this time. Speaking of pissing your money away, there's also gambling in the form of slot machines. These can be found in the bar, but the better, more high-paying ones are found in the space diner. Arcade games are something that Goon also has, but who needs lame arcade machines when you have VR? Now, VR is dangerous for more reasons than motion sickness and looking like a chump. For starters, VR pods don't have oxygen pumped into them, so your trip to video funland may turn out to be permanent. So if suffocating isn't your thing, there's a crate of VR goggles in the arcade that do the same thing but without the risk of suffocation. But be careful where you slap that headset on, because when you take it off, you may not be where you want to be. In the land of VR, you have many things to do, like kart racing, virtual basketball, and a shoot-'em-up that trains you for the pod combat out in reality. Also, all of these give prizes including the arcade games, so you can get stuff like fake e-swords, a coin, some dice, a virtual key that... Yeah, pods are those things you see in hangars. If you want to board one, click and drag yourself into it. Once inside, you got a wide array of buttons at the top. Feel free to click these. Just make sure not to turn off your life support. In order to exit the hangar, you'll either want to open up a wormhole or click this button. Sensor. Control panel? This thing. Then you're free to explore space from the comfort of your pod. Alright, now that you're out in space, what can you do? Well, tons! There's a lot of shipwreckages and other much smaller space stations that you can raid for loot and artifacts. But let's get this back on track, because I feel like I went off on a bit of a tangent about all the cool gimmicks that are exclusive to Goonstation without properly explaining how to play it or Space Station 13 as a whole. Yes, I said earlier that the goal is survival, but I don't think it's enough. You see, Space Station 13 is an engine that is designed designed and cared for by people that love to make stories. Out of all the games you can play, Space Station 13 is the purest and most compassionate one. It's made up of mechanics that people want to see and is controlled by players that love playing the game. Think of Space Station 13 as a tabletop game where the GM is literally everyone. The setting is given to you, and the roles and mechanics are handled in the background, so all you have to worry about is role-playing your character and having fun. So knowing this, how do you play this game? And that's however you want. The only limits are the rules, your imagination, and your job. Treat the game as a stage play. Play your character. Interact with people. Don't be boring and hide in your corner. What makes this game so fun is player interaction. You have layers of anonymity to hide behind, and there's no voice chat to speak of, so all you can be embarrassed by is how you write. And if you're a slow or terrible typist, don't worry, Space Station 13 will help you learn to get better, because typing out that you need help and maintenance because there's a ling named Bob Haas about to murder me will come naturally once it's happened to you enough. It's a game that generates stories, and it's why I love it so much. In the background of this video, you may have noticed a narrative forming about how a man named Jack Eye came into my office and questioned me over the murder of John Butts, before leading me on a wild goose chase in space for his new suspect, then accusing me of the murder anyway and attempting to kill me.
Yeah, I just finished wrestling some jabroni here and knocked him out.
It's things like this that make all the weirdness and antiquated controls worth suffering through. And if you have the time, I highly recommend looking for some stories about Space Station 13. I recommend reading or listening to Honk Honk Butt by Stephanos Rex. It's too good.
Efficiency and hard work of the butt conspirators paid off, and before long Medbay was entirely crammed with butt bots, to the point where the entire area was rendered non-functional and impassable due to the surging ocean of little wheeled cyberbutts happily beeping butt in a tiny chorus.
So before I wrap this up, I decided to ask my peers to submit some tips and read some of the community's tips to give you guys some extra help. So here's Plump Helmet Punk and Boat Bomber.
Do not hurt people with bees. You're gonna have to learn to embrace death. You can learn just as much as a ghost as you can while alive if you watch the right people. Learning how to be a medic is a great job early on, as figuring out how to heal yourself is easily one of the most powerful abilities out there. The 13th of every month is Ass Day, which means everyone is a traitor, and almost anything goes. It's a great day to test out those dumb ideas you've been thinking about, but didn't want to waste a legit traitor round over.
Be prepared to die a lot. Here's my tip. Don't be afraid. No! Fear everything. Everything may be a ghost. Pro tip.
Honk, honk.
Slip first, ask questions later.
And I guess that's the Goon Tutorial Trilogy. We've gone over everything that really needs to be gone over. It won't end here, however, as I will be continuing this tutorial series, but focus on all the servers instead of just one. I mostly stuck with Goon during this because it's what I'm most familiar with, and I know not a lot of people play on it, and also because it's the oldest codebase. But I'm a bit burned out on Space Station 13 tutorial making, so I'm going to be working on some other projects for the time being. When it's Space Station 13 tutorial time again, I'll be sure to put up a straw poll at the end of a future video to see what people want a video on. What the fuck? Why did I write it like this? But before I end this, let me shill some stuff. Discord is back and open to the public again. Nothing's been nuked or shitposted to oblivion. It's still the same as the old one, but we pruned and banned some members for wrongfully existing. There's chats for everything, and all the weirdo chats are now locked behind roles that you need to ask moderators for. And no, there aren't 87 plus roles anymore. I went in there with another mod and we cleaned that place out. I'm also publicly putting my Patreon back up. The rewards are less substantial, unless you really like virtual ball pits and having your name in some credits. If I reach some of the goals, I might include better rewards, but I don't want to lock off content from people or have things locked behind a paywall. That's shitty. This channel is too small to be splitting up the community like that, so just give me money if you have some spare income, or you have a lot of money. Then give me all your money. Give me your money, is what I'm saying. I also have a Twitter, where I'll probably start posting more and more on there, but I'm not big on social media that ain't Discord or YouTube, so fuck it. Shilling's done. Join me in the next video, where I'll be going in depth about the African blood diamond conflict that broke reality.